Everybody's writing about you. There's always rumors about you, too. How do you deal with it? What do you have got something you want to tell us in the press?
We don't care?
Ooh, have y'all been keeping up with all the piping hot Diddy drama? Well, there's more where that came from. Fans are now connecting the dots on J-Lo's relationship with the abusive mogul, remembering the time when she broke down, saying she didn't like him at all.
I didn't like him at all. I didn't. I thought he was like,
From her manager not wanting them together to accounts from people close to the situation, it seems J-Lo might have actually been a victim of Diddy's abuse, just like the other women he's been with. This isn't a use of fancy words or a complex situation. It's straight up what went down based on all the info out there. So buckle up as we dive into the messy details, keeping it real and casual like we're dishing about this at a kickback with the homies. Let's start with J-Lo's manager, who was concerned about her daughter dating someone as shady and controlling as Diddy. Gene Deal, an insider, says Jennifer's manager saw right through Diddy's act and knew he was nothing but trouble. She didn't have the same ideals about life, family, and all that as Diddy. No surprise there, since Diddy's all about that thug life and acting recklessly. The manager could see Diddy was all about pushing boundaries and not following any rules, the complete opposite of what a good role model should be. She was just trying to protect her daughter from that dangerous path, and it seems like the manager had good reason to be worried based on what we now know about Diddy allegedly abusing J-Lo, just like he did to other girlfriends. The stories coming out paint an ugly picture of him crossing major lines and not having any self-control or respect for women.
Somebody hired Private Eyes to follow us. It could have been her manager, Benny Medina. He didn't like Puff. You understand? So anything to get Jennifer away from him, I think he was capable and ready to do it.
For some backstory, J-Lo and Diddy first got together way back in 1999. He was this huge rap mogul at the time, and she was just a fresh-faced singer trying to make it big in the game. From the jump, Diddy took J-Lo under his wing career-wise. But he was also, absolutely tapping that on the low. At first, things seemed pretty hot and heavy between them. Diddy was showering J-Lo with lavish parties and introducing her to all the right music industry people. He basically kick-started her whole crossover into mainstream pop superstardom. Of course, Diddy being Diddy, he couldn't just be a normal, faithful boyfriend. Nah, he had to be stalking and doing shady stuff behind J-Lo's back the whole time they were an item. There are stories of Diddy allegedly getting some from other chicks while J-Lo was just upstairs being a good girlfriend. Can you imagine? Having your man pull a stunt like that under your own roof? So disrespectful. Not only was he stepping out on the regular, but Diddy was also super controlling with J-Lo from the jump. According to people close to the situation, allegedly, he was always telling her what to do, how to act, who to be around. Typical toxic, insecure boyfriend behavior. But it went way beyond just usual jealousy games. There are disturbing rumors that Diddy would actually take songs meant for other artists and just hand them over to J-Lo instead. Talk about obsessively trying to mold and shape her entire career. An R&B singer named Shantae claims Diddy straight up stole a song from her to give to J-Lo for her debut album. Can you imagine having a hit taken away like that? J-Lo was so new on the scene back then, she was probably just going along with whatever her powerful boyfriend was telling her. Honestly, when you're with someone as established and intimidating as Diddy was at that point, you'd likely do whatever he said too. Especially as a young, vulnerable artist just grateful for the opportunity he was giving you, So messed up to abuse that power dynamic like he did. Speaking of Diddy's controlling, unhinged behavior, let me tell you about this wild story I heard from Gene Deal. Apparently, Diddy got it in his head that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett were trying to swoop in and steal J-Lo away from him at one point.
Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome and you were gonna beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
Gene says they were all hanging out at a birthday party for Ben Affleck, just a casual little kickback. Well, Diddy allegedly starts tripping just because Will and Jada are being friendly and talking to J-Lo. He seriously thought they were making moves to try and get with her or something.
You're on a raft.
Yes.
In the middle of the ocean.
Right.
You look in the water.
That would give me so much anxiety. Go ahead.
Oh, this is about to give you more
Okay.
anxiety. You look in the ocean, you see two people floating.
Oh, shit.
You can only pull up one because that's how much room you have on your raft. You look in the ocean, you see Ben Affleck, and you see Diddy.
So get this, Diddy turns to one of his goons at the party and straight up says he thinks Will and Jada are trying to scoop up Jennifer. Then he instructs the dude to stay close by in case Diddy needs to snuff somebody. Can you believe that insanity? The guy was legitimately ready to throw hands with Will freaking Smith just because his jealous, paranoid mind was running wild. Imagine catching a crazy beatdown from Diddy all because you made small talk with his girlfriend at a party. Absolute madness.
We were at a birthday party that I think either Matt Damien was giving for Ben Affleck. It was just a little gathering. It was at the Four Seasons. Will Smith and his sister and her husband, we were all sitting on this side of the room. Matt Damien, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez, Puff, Will Smith, and Jada, and it was sitting on the other side of the room. So I know Puff so well that he stood up. When he stood up, he walked and did his arm some kind of way, like, and then he went like this, you know, like that. I went over towards him. I know to go over there towards him. So I go over towards him, and he said to me, he said, yo, I think Will and Jada is trying to scoop up Jennifer. I want you to stay close, because I'm going to snuff him.
But extremely on brand for Diddy from the sounds of it. He was always watching J-Lo like a hawk, just looking for any excuse to fly off the handle and flex his twisted sense of ownership over her. Just a total control freak who couldn't handle his woman having any kind of autonomy at all.
She was married at the time, so I was in my own relationship, so I had to have self-control.
Which sadly seems to be a pattern with pretty much every lady he got involved with over the years. We'll dive more into those other stories of his abuse in a bit. This J-Lo drama is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Diddy's demons. So while Diddy was out here acting unhinged and insanely jealous over J-Lo, the sad truth is he was giving her every reason not to trust him in the first place. We're talking full-blown cheating, lying, and just straight-up disrespect on a constant basis. From what insiders have said, Diddy used to be obsessively paranoid that J-Lo was the one being unfaithful. The dude had her followed by private investigators and everything. He'd be tapping her phone lines, showing up unannounced wherever she was, just to try and catch her slipping up. The level of possessive, stalker-ish behavior was next level unacceptable, all because Diddy was constantly stepping out on J-Lo himself and dealing with a guilty conscience. Classic case of projecting your own shady actions onto your partner, you know? There are so many crazy stories of Diddy just going ballistic on J-Lo over basically nothing. Like this one time she was out late celebrating her birthday with friends, just trying to have a good time. Well, Diddy loses his mind because she's not home yet and starts blowing up her phone. When J-Lo finally answers, Diddy is just grilling her hard about where she's at, who she's with, accusing her of cheating and all this wild stuff. The dude was legit talking to her like a pimp or something, threatening to take away her car and punish her. So messed up. And get this, somehow Diddy could just sense there was someone else in the car with J-Lo during this whole unhinged rant. He's screaming about how he knows she's not alone and demanding she prove it by video chatting him right then and there. Totally deranged behavior. J-Lo had to go through this type of paranoid, toxic behavior all the time with him, from the sounds of it. No wonder she eventually hit her breaking point and couldn't take it anymore. Their relationship ended in just a total bang, as she put it, likely an explosive blowout fight. In fact, one of J-Lo and Diddy's last nights out together as a couple turned into a full-blown crime scene that could have landed them both in serious legal trouble. This was just a few weeks before they finally called it quits for good at the end of 1999. They were all at a club in Times Square when some random person tossed a wad of cash at Diddy, which was apparently a sign of major disrespect in the hip-hop world back then. Well, gunfire immediately broke out as tensions escalated rapidly. In the ensuing chaos, Diddy, J-Lo, and their crew tried peeling out of the scene in a rush, but cops quickly caught up to their SUV and a wild chase broke out through the city streets. When they finally caught up to the vehicle, officers found a loaded gun just chilling on the front seat. Both J-Lo and Diddy ended up spending the night in jail, charged with felony gun possession among other crimes. Looking back, this probably should have been J-Lo's wake-up call to get out of that toxic situation for good before something even worse went down.
So sitting there, being handcuffed to a bench, and I do remember feeling the comfort of someone caring about you enough that...
Because according to the rumors, that gun on the scene may have actually belonged to J-Lo herself. The word on the street is Diddy was making her hold illegal firearms for him as some sort of twisted power play. Just like he'd later make his future girlfriend Cassie carry guns too. We'll get more into that Cassie situation in a bit. But if the stories about J-Lo are true, it takes Diddy's controlling criminal behavior to a whole new level of sickness. Putting your girlfriend in harm's way like that, potentially ruining her entire career and future over petty street drama, straight up unforgivable. By now, I'm sure you've all seen or at least heard about that disturbing leaked hotel footage of Diddy violently assaulting Cassie a few days back. If not, well, consider yourself lucky. That ish was hard to stomach.
The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016.
We're talking full-on, unhinged meltdown from Diddy. Dude looked like an absolute monster as he's aggressively grabbing at Cassie, screaming in her face, slamming her up against walls. You can hear her crying and pleading with him to stop in the most heartbreaking way. Apparently, this blow-up all stemmed from Diddy being his standard controlling, irrationally jealous self as usual. He had flown into a rage simply because Cassie had been working in the studio with some other producers and artists without his permission or presence. Typical insane behavior from him. What's even more disturbing is that in the legal complaint Cassie filed against Diddy's abusive ass, she claims he actually paid off that hotel a cool $50,000 to keep the security footage under wraps at the time. Can you imagine having that kind of money to just literally buy people's silence?
Its video of Ventura's lawsuit says Diddy didn't want you to see, having paid $50,000 to ensure it was never released.
But of course, because the universe has a way of exposing the truth, that damning tape eventually found its way into the wrong hands and leaked for the world to see Diddy's true colors on full display. Let's just say it wasn't a great look for his public image or legacy, to put it mildly. The backlash was pretty intense too, with even some of Diddy's peers in the music industry dragging him hard over that disturbing footage. Folks were calling him a monster, a lunatic, questioning how anyone could still support his career after seeing that side of him. Diddy, being Diddy, obviously tried issuing one of those classic celebrity apology videos in the aftermath of the leak to do some damage control. But bruh, did he ever miss the mark with that one? First of all, the bulk of his statement was really just Diddy feeling sorry for himself and his own rock-bottom tailspin, rather than actually atoning for his horrific actions towards Cassie specifically. It was more woe is me energy than genuine remorse or accountability, you know?
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
Then he drops this line about being disgusted by his behavior when he first saw the footage. Like, okay, my dude, cool admission. But were you also disgusted by all the other times you terrorized and abused your girlfriends off camera too? Or were you only sorry you got caught on tape this one instance? Because let's be real, the stories about Diddy's history of domestic violence just kept piling up after that leak. With multiple exes, besides Cassie coming forward to corroborate the pattern of brutal physical and mental abuse he'd put them through over the years too. We had his first baby mama, Kim Porter's, former friends recounting insane horror stories of times they'd seen Diddy violently attack her as well. Former bodyguards who used to work security for Diddy also went public about having to intervene when he'd lose control and start wailing on whichever girlfriend was catching his hands that day. So yeah, dude's sad sack apology video definitely didn't have the intended effect of redeeming him in the public eye. If anything, it just opened the floodgates even wider for new accusations and first-hand accounts to keep spilling out about his real nature behind closed doors. I mean, this is a guy who most people believe was somehow involved in the mysterious passing of Kim Porter herself after she threatened to write a tell-all book exposing all his dirty laundry. There are just too many receipts stacked up at this point.
And a lot of people who speak on the Kim Porter situation because I can't lead to the party. But man, bro, you a sucker. And I more than think he capable of this, but act like little girls. Now when it come to Kim Porter, I'm gonna be real, bro. I feel bad for her, man. I feel like she went through.
Now I want to circle back to J-Lo's perspective on this whole Diddy abuse situation for a minute, because she definitely seemed to tread very carefully whenever she was asked about her ex in more recent years in interviews.
Where we were at that time in our lives, and we both knew nobody else understood exactly how we felt.
You could just see this look of caution, maybe even a little fear, flash across J-Lo's face whenever Diddy's name would come up. She was always quick to change the subject or give brief, surface-level responses to deflect from really diving into the toxic depths of that relationship. An attitude that makes total sense when you consider the dark stories about the kind of unhinged, vindictive behavior Diddy was capable of exhibiting towards his exes. We're talking literally about having people followed, phones tapped, threats, and retaliation if they dared speak ill of him publicly. So can you really blame J-Lo for not wanting to be the one to rattle that hornet's nest and make herself a target again? Domestic abusers often tenaciously tenaciously cling to maintaining control over their victims, even long after a relationship has ended. Judging by the whispers, Diddy was absolutely that type. That just makes it even more courageous that J-Lo eventually did get real about the emotional torture she experienced at his hands during that infamous interview. You could tell it wasn't easy for her to go there, but she pushed through those psychological barriers he'd no doubt instilled in her over the years. Watching J-Lo choke up while recounting how Diddy's alleged abuse demolished her self-worth, how she had to learn to put up boundaries and regain her sense of self, that was heavy, powerful stuff. Straight up the raw, ugly truth about the psychological ramifications of experiencing DV. But see, J-Lo's courage to speak her truth like that is exactly why some of Diddy's most toxic behavior towards other girlfriends has been harder for him to sweep under the rug in recent years. Once one voice gets louder, it just emboldens more victims to find their own.
It was like, I think our relationship was so in the press, you know, that people didn't really take it as a serious relationship, but we really loved each other.
Take Diddy's ex, Gina, for example. This is a woman who's claimed some seriously disturbing allegations of physical abuse at his hands, but her story never really got mainstream traction for whatever reason. At least not until J-Lo's tears prompted a re-examination.
He was abusive. He was like always belittling me and always like, he was like mentally, emotionally, and physically abusing me.
According to Gina, just a few months into dating Diddy back in the day, he allegedly started getting violently aggressive with her, punching her, stomping on her stomach until she couldn't breathe, just evil, sadistic type of stuff, you know?
So what did he say? It was like serendipity or something?
He said he remembers it vaguely, but not really. So, but I don't know. I was with a friend. I was visiting a friend in Miami. She had moved to Miami from Nebraska, and I was visiting her, and
the fact that multiple women's stories are lining up with such eerily similar accounts of Diddy's modes of attack is pretty damning. Like, this wasn't just him losing his temper in isolated incidents, it was clearly a patterned way of asserting his misogynistic need for full control through fear and violence.
Like the first 3-4 months, he was really nice, but then after that, he was...
Gina's harrowing ordeal also tracks with stories told by people who used to work security details for Diddy's camps over the years, too. More than one bodyguard has claimed seeing him physically assault romantic partners like Cassie or Kim Porter without any justifiable provocation. These dudes had to literally pull Diddy off of these women sometimes, throw him into walls or whatever they could to de-escalate his uncontrolled rages before he did even more damage. Yet he'd always try to downplay or outright deny any allegations afterwards, like they were all just making it up.
Jennifer, she's definitely a bad chick, but I was still in love with Kim, you know what I'm saying? So I couldn't marry Jennifer, but I was still in love with Kim.
At this point, though, there's just been too many similar experiences shared from too many different voices over too many years. The guy's reputation has taken some serious, well-deserved hits for sure. Speaking of Diddy's toxic obsession with Kim Porter, let's revisit how that whole saga allegedly intertwined with the demise of his relationship to J-Lo as well. Because guys, there's even more layers of messy to unpack there. See, when J-Lo finally made that executive decision to peace out on Diddy once and for all, his camp tried pushing a neat little narrative that it was simply because he had unresolved feelings for his ex Kim and the mother of his children. A very convenient excuse, don't you think? Except here's the thing, according to countless insiders, that fairy tale spin was about as far from the truth as you can get. The real reason J-Lo bounced? Well, if you've been following along up until this point, I think you can probably hazard a solid guess. That's right, it was Diddy's unbearable, borderline criminal controlling behavior and propensity for abuse that ultimately caused J-Lo to say enough is enough and rightfully run for the hills. Who could really blame her after putting up with so much toxicity for so long? Yet in the years since, Diddy has steadfastly downplayed or outright denied allegations that he ever mistreated or raised a hand to J-Lo during their time as a couple, despite the overwhelming evidence and testimonies from people who witnessed it firsthand indicating otherwise. It's the same shameless song and dance he'd later try to pull when confronted about the abuse claims from Cassie, Kim Porter, Gina, and who knows how many other exes. Just deny, deflect, and accuse everyone else of lying or exaggerating. Classic abuser mentality 101. But here's the million-dollar question. Why would all of these seemingly unrelated women with no reason to collude make up such hauntingly similar tales of torment at the hands of this one individual? Doesn't take a genius to read between the lines and see the real truth staring us in the face here. Diddy has positioned himself as an unavoidable pillar of influence in the entertainment world for decades now. So of course he's done everything in his power to try preserving his lucrative public image and burying all his dirty laundry from trickling out into the open and derailing that gravy train. Some might even say he's employed backhanded, outright criminal means to keep problematic voices excuses and narratives about his personal life silenced for good if the most scandalous rumors are to be believed. Whether through hush money, intimidation, or worse, Diddy's pockets have been endlessly deep in that regard. Domestic violence has shattered too many lives to stay hushed up any longer. Doesn't matter how rich or famous the abuser thinks they are. As much as some people want to keep sweeping Diddy's nasty skeletons back into the closet, that ship has finally sailed, fam. The only way forward now is to keep peeling back every ugly layer until the cold, hard truth is staring us right in the face with nowhere left to hide. Some might say Diddy earned himself a total reckoning at this point, and then some. Protecting sickos like that and enabling their continued platforms just breeds more victims in the long run. It's a vicious cycle that needs to be stopped in its tracks, you know? The brave souls who suffered unimaginable trauma at Diddy's hands deserve to have their voices amplified over his sad, pathetic attempts to silence and discredit them. They've already been through pure hell. The absolute least we can do is listen up and believe every word without question. J-Lo's public breakdown about her experiences was likely just the tip of the iceberg too. Her candor may have opened the floodgates for even more insiders to find their courage. We're talking former bodyguards, security personnel, industry folks. Anyone who's had a first-hand look at the real Diddy behind closed doors is slowly but surely stepping up to be the truth's messenger. No amount of hollow apology vids or limp denials can outrun that mountain of receipts from all angles. So let's keep fanning those blazing flames, shall we? Get your hottest takes sizzling in the comments down below. This is the kind of conversation that could truly shed new light on how we hold wealthy, powerful celebs accountable when we all make some noise. And if this was your first time tuning in for some breathlessly messy expose storytelling, well, you know the drill. Smash that subscribe button so you never miss another piping hot tea session. Trust me, there's always more dramatic juice waiting to get spilled. I'll be heating up a fresh pot real soon.